They let me on the team, and the next year I was starting. The last 2 seasons, I was the captain of the team. I think it just really goes to show that like what you commit yourself to and what's important to you, you can make happen.
You went the unorthodox route and you advocated for yourself, spoke out. It takes courage to do that at about 18 years old. Our guest today is Aubrey Kozer, a powerhouse operator inside HouseMax Funding. Aubrey is one of the top originators in Texas and the nation.
You find the right person, you can train. It's not the other way around. If they don't have the drive, if they're not goal-oriented, if they're not willing to engage in a positive culture, you've got the wrong person.
They don't know how many calls you've been on. They don't know how many loans you're working. Like, you need to make them feel like they are the most important thing to you and that they are the only loan and the only deal that you're working on, because people can just sense that. I would just love for women to speak up more with sharing what they're doing, how they're doing it, and sharing those resources that make those things possible, because that turns what seems like an insurmountable challenge into like an inevitability.
Welcome back to the SFR She Suite, an EverResi Original Series, where we spotlight women shaping the single-family rental and built-to-rent industry. The operators, the strategists, the visionaries, and the women who are redefining what leadership looks like in a space that moves fast and demands or even faster thinking. This is where we talk about identity, origin stories, operator DNA, and the real work behind scaling portfolios, teams, and careers. Today, we're sitting down with a woman whose leadership shows up in this with speed and precision and operational discipline of one of the fastest moving acquisition and renovation models in the industry. Let's get into it.
Our guest today is Aubrey Kozer, a powerhouse operator inside HouseMax Funding. Aubrey is one of the top originators in Texas and the nation, landing at number 4 on the Scotsman's Guide ranking after closing 546 loans last year. She graduated summa cum laude at biomedical engineering from the University of Akron. Aubrey is also an active investor with 3 flips in motion of her own. And when she's not building deals, she's with her younger sisters or her 3 cats. I know a little bit about that. But welcome, Aubrey. Aubrey's a woman with a story, and that's what we like to do here on the SFR She Suite, is focus on our women with stories professionally and personally. So welcome, Aubrey, to the She Suite.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. We're so glad you're here. I want to start with who you are, your identity, like part of leadership we don't talk about enough in the industry. When you think about your journey into SFR, HouseMax, what was the moment you realized I'm built for this industry, even if the industry maybe wasn't quite built for you?
Yeah, what a good question. How I got into this industry is kind of the ethos of, I think, why there is success in the originator role and why I think I'll be a successful operator moving forward with fix and flips and real estate at large. And that actually starts a little further back than kind of the career that I started to develop. It starts back in college, but I've always been a driven kid with sports and academics. But particularly as I was looking to choose a college, volleyball was something that was very important to me. I was an athlete all growing up, so I had an opportunity to get an academic full ride at the University of Akron, which is where I studied biomedical engineering. But it was a Division I program, so that's high level sports. It doesn't really matter what conference you're in. If you're at D1, you're playing at a very, very high level. And
So you played D1, you were a D1 athlete as well as summa cum laude.
Yeah.
That is high achievement right there.
All right. I see you are.
You get it done. That's what you do. You get it done.
Look,
Okay.
how I got there, like specifically the Division I athlete, I wasn't quite at that caliber going into college, and I was gonna have to give up volleyball, it seemed like, just to pursue kind of the financially responsible route going into college, which was like, don't pay for it. So I reached out to the head coach of the program and I was like, hey, I was planning on going to a smaller school like D1 or D2 or D3. I'm coming to Akron. Could I possibly just be the team manager for y'all's program? Because I don't know that I'm at that level. I don't know that I'll ever be at that level. They agreed. So I became team manager and I was keeping stats, shagging balls, going to all of the games, all of the matches, all of the travel. And at the end of that season, I had been training, practicing like purely on my own, knowing that I wanted to ask if I could walk on to the team. That was a lot of late night hours, a lot of private workouts, like a lot of things that kind of led up to that moment. And the coach let me try out for the team. And I'm pretty sure it was like my resiliency throughout the entire season, because being a team manager is like not a glamorous job, especially when you're used to being like a star athlete, like from your small high school or whatever the case is. And so I tried out and I became the first walk on in like decades at the university.
Wow.
Yeah. So they let me on the team, and the next year I was starting, getting a ton of match time, and the last 2 seasons I was the captain of the team. So I think it just really goes to show that like what you commit yourself to and what's important to you, like you can make happen.
Yes.
The same thing happened with me being an originator. I had no experience in this space at all, but I had a lot of faith and a lot of trust in management here from knowing them like outside of work and personally. And when you want to make a life for yourself, like there's just things that get you up in the morning and like get you going. So that was my motivation then. You know, motivations have changed now, but certainly the same drive that can like make things happen. So thanks for asking that.
I love that story so much. And one thing that resonates with me is like, it's not only that you're motivated to make a life for yourself. I mean, that's amazing. And you've obviously done that and done it well. But, as a mom of three, and my youngest is graduating high school, they've all played sports and activities. And one of the things that I think is so important that you did was you advocated for yourself and you took a risk, right? You picked up the phone, you called or you met with someone that was out of the ordinary. You didn't it wasn't like that coach came to your school and like, okay, we're going to offer you this. Like you went, the unorthodox route and you advocated for yourself, spoke out, this is what I want. And that's really cool. It's takes courage to do that, especially, at about 18 years old.
That's incredible due to how young you were, your age. I mean, it's like you came up with a plan and executed how you were going to reach it, even though you thought, okay, this is not a traditional plan. But who needs a traditional plan? I mean, you thought outside the box. I mean, you figured out an angle in to get on track to where you wanted, and it may have not been the traditional angle. And hello, welcome to being a woman in the industry, and we're all women in the industry. We don't necessarily follow those traditional lanes sometimes to get to where we need to go.
Yeah, no doubt. So well said by both of you. This is exactly how it went.
Mhm.
So before another question, tell me a little bit about how you from there to HouseMax funding. Like what was your background before that?
Yeah, so after college, I took a unique opportunity in Austin, Texas, again, kind of going the non-traditional route. I graduated with an engineering degree and had the opportunity to pursue like basically a CMO level role of a startup in here in Texas. And it was back when Instagram was kind of just like blowing up and you could find businesses and whatnot. And I had really resonated with this group that was at the time 2 other employees and a part-time person. And they were looking for kind of some support in the marketing side. And I'm coming out of my last year of college and I'm like, surely I can learn marketing, right? And that has to be like the easiest thing to do. So the last semester of college, I spent my entire time in the business school and like taking basically a crash course in all things marketing. Um, and worked my last semester of my senior year for that company doing CRM management, email campaigns, creating their top of funnel website management. And after that, they offered me a full-time job. My parents thought I was crazy. They were like, please, like you've been educated in this incredible degree and it sounds like you don't want to use it. And I was just ready for a change from growing up in a small town in Norton, Ohio. And I was like, I have my degree. I've proved to myself I can do lots of hard things. So like worst case scenario, if I fall on my butt, I'll get back up and reevaluate. Um, Fortunately, that move was great. That company was great and served its purpose for quite a few years until they decided to kind of downsize to just two people. And in between things, I was just kind of paying bills, to be honest. I was coaching a ton, which was something I was passionate about. I even picked up like a retail job just in between as I was like, maybe I want to do the whole athlete thing and, do it while I'm young. And my parents are super supportive. So they're like, she'll figure it out. She's smart. And along the way, I had met the owner of our company, Jeff Vector, coaching him in volleyball. Like it was an adult training program, and I was the coach. He was the athlete, and he always loved the way that I coached and like kept everybody in line and was running practices. And he was like, "It really doesn't sound like you love what you're doing currently. Why don't you consider coming in, getting a job with us and interviewing?" And I was like, I don't know exactly what y'all do, but I was like, you know, do want more for myself. So let's just give it a go. So I interviewed with all of the owners here at HouseMax, and they're describing this like loan process or like loan selling, some sort of that nature. And I'm like, yeah, okay, here's my background. Here's what I did in volleyball. Here's what I'm educated in. And they were like, you sound hardworking, you're hired. So quite literally, that's how I entered the real estate space and became an originator, was just kind of happenstance and knowing the right people. Um, and fortunately, a few months into my career in sales, I landed a really big account, um, just by kind of picking up the phone and doing the uncomfortable thing, which is like talking to people, making mistakes, saying the wrong thing, learning. Um, and that account just let me take so many at bats at originating and looking at appraisals and seeing the process that I was like, oh, okay, this is a lot like engineering, and the fact that it runs patterns with numbers, right? So you kind of just know the guidelines and then know them really well, and you present the best package for the investor that you can. So it didn't take very long for me to learn that I had like a knack for that, and that kind of the competition mindset of like, how much can you close? Who can you bring in? Like, how can you support them in their business and helping them scale was just like all perfectly made for me in my background. So that's how that happened.
I think it's a testament to you find the right person you can train. It's not the other way around. You can train out, you can find somebody who's trained, but if they're not the right person, that they don't have the drive, if they're not goal oriented, if they're not willing to engage in a positive culture, you've got the wrong person. And so I think it's amazing. It's a testament to your drive, your authenticity, and who you are as a person, that he recognized that in you and he brought you on board. And it's like, we can train.
Yeah. Yeah. And that like adage, like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I think so true. And like, I hope if anybody takes anything out of what I've said so far, it's just kind of like that mentality can get you so much further than you ever thought was possible.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, sometimes it's just, and you said it before, the resilience, just being willing to make a mistake, get back up, try it again, try it again, try it again. It goes a long way. And the next thing I was going to ask is kind of what part of your background shows up most in how you lead today. But even before that, it sounds like in how you're working today in your current position. I mean, you said it, engineering, the loan origination process being similar to engineering and how the process flows. And I've never heard anyone articulate it like that before, but that makes so much sense, right? And then the sales component of just being an athlete and being competitive, when you take those two things together, and somebody who's passionate about putting something together piece by piece, step by step in a process, and has the competitive nature to drive themselves to sale. Yeah, there's a lot to be said there. I've never heard that compared to a loan originator, but it just fits perfectly.
Yeah, and then I think like, to the other special sauces, and a lot of conversations I've had around real estate have to do with AI and like AI taking, roles, jobs, what have you. And I think it's like can you have that detail-oriented mindset, also see the big picture of, like, what it means to be an investor, and also have enough, like, communication skill and rapport that you can build a relationship with someone over the phone? Like, it's not the easiest thing, I'll be honest. And I'm, like, constantly checking in with myself when I hop on a call. I'm like, "They don't know how many calls you've been on. They don't know how many loans you're working." Like, you need to make them feel like they are the most important thing to you and that they are the only loan and the only deal that you're working on. Because people can just sense that, you know what I mean? They can smell BS a mile away. So I think like as AI and tech like replaces a lot of jobs, it's like, how do I, with my skill set, like stay relevant and stay valuable to this company and like including those tech aspects, but like continuing to expand my skill set just within sales and bringing value.
Yeah.
I think that's so important, especially, with AI becoming more and more integral in how we operate, and how we're looking at AI to kind of take over some of the more manual task. I was at a conference this past week, and one of the panels, they were talking about the importance of AI, but um, understanding that, it's not, you can't replace that human element, that human touch, that interaction. People still want that. And it's so nice that you realize that and you focus on that, because really the relationships are still very much important.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, people do business with people they like.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's what-
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. So every operator has a muscle they built, something they're proud of because it didn't come easy, and you've already touched on things that haven't come easy, for you, but you figured out a way to execute and make it happen. What's the operational muscle that you're most proud of building at HouseMax?
Hmm. Wow, that's a good question. Um, I don't know if it's operational, but I think it is a mindset of, I think, growing up and being in school, I always like wanted to be right. I didn't want to be seen being wrong. In this space, I learn something every day, and I think I came to terms with saying like, "Hey, I don't know, but I'll find out for you." And then also being humble enough to be like, "Man, I don't have all the answers," or like, "This person on the phone could very well teach me something new." Uh, so kind of it's around that mentality of just being comfortable with being a little uncomfortable and not knowing all of the answers, um, to be honest, and then trying to learn them too as an operator and in the flipping game. I'm like, I'm sure I'm going to make mistakes. I'm probably going to have some financial misses along the way because there's just no way you could possibly know everything, and just leaning in and being comfortable with that.
Yeah, that goes back to the relationship, standpoint, the human touch that you and Mindy were both just talking about. I mean, you can't replace that with, you can't, you can't, you really can't replicate humility or vulnerability or, when you're just, you really, the desire to help someone and being willing to, admit, I know in sales, I'm sure Mindy and I both experienced this. You maybe you tell someone something and you were incorrect about the information, and then they have a policy or a product or a service that's a little bit different than what it actually is, and you have to go back and, you learn quickly that people can handle most any information as long as you're humble, you're vulnerable, you are able to admit when you made a mistake. But realizing and having that wisdom at a younger age as a female is pretty rare.
Very
God,
incredible.
you're kind of
Yes.
blowing me away right now with your
Mhm.
really like your willingness to be. It took me a minute to get there, I'm not gonna lie. To be that. Maybe I've always been humble
Yeah.
from just kind of, upbringing, but the vulnerability and um the courage it takes to maybe admit you're wrong in front of people and stuff like that. That can take a minute.
Yeah. And I think that the intentions that you have behind what you do really matters as well, and can like make that a little bit easier when you are wrong, because it's like I wasn't trying to like intentionally pull a fast one or like hurt you or this transaction in any way. Um I'm also a Christian person, so I'm trying to be mindful of like I'm in a very delicate space dealing with like, a lot of money and like high level transactions and like a lot of stuff, but like trying to lead from a place of like I genuinely do want to help you and your business and like what you're trying to build for your family and like your legacy and like knowing that comes with a lot of responsibility. So like the times that I missed where I'm like, hey, this one's on me and like I will make it up to you. I will make sure we get through this, and come out better for it. And just remembering why you're doing it in the first place helps me a lot.
I want to talk about something specific to women in this space. And this is probably you're probably going to this is more of a field operations question, so I think it's going to be more on your flips you've got going in Austin. But what part of that renovation process do you think being a woman is you are able to really shine and elevate in that process?
Another great question. So I come from, I think, a unique vantage point on the flipping side of things is like, obviously I'm a female investor, but my partner in GC, she's also a female. Um, and it is like an incredibly fruitful dynamic for the two of us, just because I feel like no details are ever missed. Like if there's like conflict, like the ways that we handle it, I think through healthy communication are great. Um, I think just being like one step ahead, with our like female brains thinking about operations is like next level. Um, so I would say like those are the wins in being a female operator, with just I guess the detail of which you operate your business. I think it'd be way easier to talk about the complications and the things that are challenging.
We can talk about that. Absolutely, because you're definitely equipped to handle them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
Yeah, because that's where you truly grow and learn and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I mean, it makes for great stories too. I like that. I can manage I'm making up numbers, a million addresses, but I'm gonna remember that one house. Or
Uh-huh.
tell me the story about that house. That's what I remember these different properties on.
Yeah, and I think my business partner, Tana, like, gets the brunt of it being at these houses day to day. I
Mhm.
help with trades, and we had, another contractor we had hired for our first project, and I think the dynamic is interesting when people think that they know more than you do in the space, and, like,
Oh, that isn't that interesting.
I'm like, "Is it just because you're a man that you think that I don't like?"
Maybe.
And, Tana has been a wonderful, like, kind of example of how to carry yourself in the field, and she's been doing new construction and flipping for over a decade, and so she knows her way around a construction site, but I think what's admirable about her is she will absolutely stand her ground, and she's not gonna let
Mhm,
anybody push her around, and I think as
mhm,
females, it's really easy to wanna be, like, a little bit more of people pleasing, a little more
mhm,
amicable and agreeable, and, when it comes down to, like, project management and the right thing getting done, sometimes that's not the pace and that's not the move. Like, you really have to be like, "I want this outlet here. I need this door this size." Like, you think you have a vision, that's cool, but that's not what we're going for, and here's what I have in mind. Here's why it's gonna work, and period. The end. And then follow your plan, and if you're wrong, like, money will fix it. But I think that she gets a lot of pushback from subs, contractors, whatnot, when they're trying to dictate, like, there's no way that you could know better. Um, so, it takes time, but I'm glad that I have a female role model to look to, and to learn from, because I do think, like, there should be dialogue around, like, what's happening at a project, but I don't think that anybody should be dictating ultimately, like, what is yours, you know? Um, so those are some of the challenges I've seen.
It's, when you are doing any kind of loan origination, for someone's future home, right? That's uber important. So one of the largest purchases most personal purchases somebody will ever make, right? Um, and having not only somebody like you on the origination side who understands the process going on. But you having a partner like that you really trust, like a GC, that boots on the ground, that you're telling us how thorough and clear your lines of communication are and everything, that really sets you guys aside, I feel like, from other people. Just having that in place in and of itself, it's so important and crucial to have that GC aspect and those boots on the ground when you're doing that origination process, and somebody who will listen to you, and you guys can navigate those tough details that happen.
Yep. I agree. And as an originator, like to working with other investors, deals that I'm closing for other people, I find it's a little easier for me to stand that ground in that space because I just know it from a pure like volume of transactions. I'm like, hey, I know you want this, but I need this. And like, here's the time I need it by. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, if you want this to close the way that I want this to close, we're gonna do it my way. He who holds the gold holds the rules. That's the so, I think I've learned that more in a space that I'm very, like, comfortable, and a little more fluid in, but certainly on the construction site is a side that I wanna continue to improve and aspire to be more proficient in the next, call it decade.
So I want to shift into the She Suite lens. The identity and evolution behind the operator. Sure, every woman in leadership has a future version of herself she's growing into. What's the version of you that you're still becoming? The one the industry maybe hasn't met yet.
Mm, what a great question. Um, I think I'm still trying to build, like, my own individual legacy and reputation nationally because we lend nationally, but specifically here in Austin, Texas, like, I wanna help HouseMax have a stamp of transparency, great ethics, always doing what we say we're gonna do, promise keeping and then promise delivering when we're originating loans, because I think we are in a very important space. Like, leverage is critical in flipping new construction. There's just so many times where you would need that. So building my own personal reputation of just like, hey, I use Aubrey and she's great, and like that kind of like word of mouth traveling in and of itself. Um, but futuristically speaking for me, like, I don't have any kids or partner right now, but I know that what I'm building and how hard I'm working is for that future family and to support them in ways that makes their life really easy and really great. Um, my parents are wonderful, but they are very risk adverse. So they're
That's an interesting dynamic. That's like the opposite of what you're doing. That's funny.
yeah, and they've certainly come around and they were like, "Well, thank goodness you're not a biomedical engineer." I'm like, all right. Like, not gonna say I told you so, but no, so just I didn't have that kind of exposure, growing up, and I certainly wanna be able to expose my family to the possibilities that exist within real estate. So, building that personal and career reputation, saving money, building a portfolio to be able to, like, support my family in whatever they need and whatever paths they choose to take, with education or career or real estate, whatever it may be. That's kind of the direction that I'm heading, what I'm thinking about.
That's really cool. Um, so, and finally, because these are the conversations we love so much, and the reason we love this platform so much, like, what is the conversation that you wish more women like us, or, would have in the SFR BTR space and have out loud, just in general? I mean, it, it can be anything, whether it's pay, support systems, communication, anything like that. And we're not here to male bash by any means, but just from a female point of view, like, what do you wish we were, what do you wish we were saying more of?
Yeah, I mean, the phrase "girls girl" comes to mind, and I think that everybody is such a wealth of resources from their experience, their careers. Everybody has so much to give in their own, like, unique way with their own unique gifts and talents and connections and everything. And I think what I hope women realize from diving into programs like yours is that it is incredibly possible. It's incredibly accessible. And I would just love for women to speak up more with sharing what they're doing, how they're doing it, and sharing those resources that make those things possible. Um, because, like, for me, I would have never thought a year and a half ago I'd have one flip completed, let alone three going. And I think it's a combination of like good connections, a great loan program, a good contractor that turns like what seems like an insurmountable challenge into like an inevitability. So if women could share those things, like when we're in groups like this or, out in conferences or even shoot, even at dinner, like I had one of my friends in the office like came up and asked me like, so how exactly did you get started on flipping? Like, I know you like see all the loans and stuff, but like what happened first? I think that would just make the biggest difference for women. Particularly, I'd love for them to be more independent financially. There's nothing wrong with, you know, dual income support, stay at home mom. None of that is wrong by any means. I think it's just great to have an additional skill set that you can rely on just for women to be able to support themselves, on their own and be incredibly proud of what they've accomplished.
Yeah, that is huge. I have two girls and a son, and my girls definitely, my son seems to automatically feel like he is supposed to be able to be financially independent, right? I'm not saying my girls don't, but all three of them, I've reiterated it, but definitely, to them for sure. It's just, I feel like it's important. You can, and maybe you're, as to your point, a stay at home mom, if that's what you desire to be after the fact, that doesn't mean you can't start off with a career and save some money and support yourself and, learn how to have because you really, I've seen some very unfortunate situations, and it is just really, really important to be able to, in my opinion, stand on your own 2 feet if something in life throws you a curveball, which yeah, I've had my fair share of things, so you just never know.
Yeah, you really don't ever know. And I think that finding fulfillment from like multiple sources is really to like how it was designed to be. Like I'm a big proponent of like you can have it all. So I think, you can be a stay-at-home mom and have something that you're very passionate about. It doesn't necessarily have to be a traditional 9 to 5 or like work 7 hours or anything like that. Um, I just think like multiple things that fill you up and like make you who you are.
Hmm.
In today's society, with whether it's with social media or with AI or whatever it is, there are so many opportunities to generate income and side income, or through real estate, through flipping. There are ways to get your name out there, and you can stay home and be with your children if that's what you'd like to do, but still have an opportunity to do something that to your point, you're passionate about, and, maybe help contribute to the financial stability of yourself and your family at the same time. I'd like to hear a little bit about really what you and HouseMax what is your focus right now? Like, what is, like, what are you guys hearing, talking about, focused on product wise, etc.?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm very grateful that I happen to be at HouseMax. Our owners are wonderful about thinking like futuristically about the health of the business and the partners. Like we have basically an investor that we're serving. That's everybody that comes to get loans from us. And then there's kind of like the financial backing behind that, right? Because if you're doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year, I don't think anybody assumes it's like one or two people's money in and of itself. Like we essentially are selling loans into Wall Street, and our owners have done such a great job of cultivating those relationships and making the capital what I mean, of course I'm biased, but I also like use the product. I think it's the best in the business. Like for people who are credit worthy and worth doing loans for, like we can be the best out there, which makes my job as a saleswoman like very easy, if not comically easy. I'm like, tell me about yourself. I'll tell you exactly what I've got. It's hardly ever that I'm getting like, oh no, or like, let me pin you against, so and so. Um, so right now we're just really focused on people who pay their bills and execute their projects, like, at the very, like, simplest core of it. We've got really great products for very high leverage. So for people who have already done a lot, we sometimes do 100% financing, which is a pretty unique product out in the space and wonderful for people who want to do a lot. It doesn't mean they don't have any money. They probably still do have money. It's just more of a helps with the staying liquidity light and like moving through projects a little quicker.
Right. They don't want to leverage their own money.
Right. And I think a lot of people are raising private funds anyway, or like have JV partners that are contributing money to deals. So when you take that out of the picture, either that gives more profitability to a single investor or saves a lot of time on the like money raise side. They just don't have to do it. So that product has been a wonderful addition to what we do here at HouseMax. We probably introduced it maybe 6 months ago. So that's a huge win. We've been working really aggressively with builders in Austin, but in all like major markets as well. We have a huge presence out in California, huge presence in Florida. And DSCR, we talked about rate volatility, but it's still one of the better products out there from what I've compared price wise. And, rates are up, but our product's still letting people cash out refi, just straight term refi, all of those good things. So right now we're just focused on growth mode of bringing in better clients, repeat business, building the book. This is a very, very competitive space. Hard money is like, it seems like everyone and their mother does it. And you can even be a private lender. So then you've got like those people to compete with too. So it's like, how do we set ourselves apart? And I think it's great product across the board, phenomenal draw system. We have a management team, owners that are like incredibly active. They're on calls with my investors regularly. So I think it's very rare for, Joe to be involved with our owner. And like we take calls with Joe the builder all the time, So that little bit more like personal touch that's like, hey, you really do matter to our business is also how we're trying to set ourselves apart in this very competitive space that is hard money.
Now, are your end users, your clients, are they typically non-owner occupants and or investors, or do you have a little bit of both?
We only do secondary properties and
Okay.
owner occ. So it's, all investor based stuff. Nobody's gonna live in what we're originating. Mostly they're either flipping homes, building homes, or keeping homes as rentals is like how we classify it.
Which is perfect for our industry.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, like so much more fun in some ways to like have a bunch of key business. Like I see, some people monthly because that's just their business model and their scale and how they make money. So it's fun to like build that rapport and cadence of like regular correspondence with people. Whereas, if you're buying a primary, you might only buy once every 10 years or 15 years. Very different.
Do you have clients that buy numerous properties at once?
Yeah, I do. It's not uncommon for me to have people doing 4 or 5 to 10 like loans in a given month. It really just depends on like kind of purchase price and like the product type. But yeah, I just was working this morning and somebody had 3 deals all to go next week. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, he's big time in North Carolina. So that's fun. And the pace to me is fun. I'm like, oh, okay, 5-day closing. Let's do it. Let's just strap in and make it happen.
Well, that's so important for an investor that's trying to build their portfolio, rather than having to wait 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, whatever it is to make an offer on another property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same for builders too, because the sooner that they can start the process and get homes up and like get draws that quickly, it just makes scaling easy. Like you wouldn't think that speed is such a factor, but it really is, and the sales cycle is super short and hard money. So for a sales perspective, I think that's so fun.
On your draws for your draw schedule, do you typically have an inspection network that goes out and verifies for you guys for those draws?
Good question. So we kind of have two options. We have you can go the inspector route if you want, but the tech has gotten so good that we use a system called SiteWire, and then I think the photo application is TruePic. So you can just go to your project and take pictures of what's been done and what you're wanting money for. And our team reviews it same day. Funds often go out the same day. So it really just down the time of like bringing that middleman person and that kind of like subjective opinion of like, do they think it's done? Do you think it's done? So, and people love the photos, and they're there anyway, or their contractors are there, so they can just have people that are on site like submitting stuff when they're ready for stuff.
Oh, that's great. That's a
Yeah,
great solution.
that is great.
Yeah, tech is getting better these days for sure. There's like
When I first graduated from college, I was in lending for a bit, and I've done lending a couple of different times during my career. This has been a while, and man, uh, did it used to take forever, forever, you know. So it's really cool to hear how technology has advanced in that space too, just because it was necessary, especially when you're talking about an investor world or the process of hard or private money. Um, yeah, that's really cool.
Making sure you don't release draws before they are ready to be released. I mean, I've dealt with a client where they kept sending me people to help finish the renovation on their house because things just kind of went off the rails. And what I kept finding was that draws had been released, and so perfect example. I had a client who had sent me a home that was gutted. It was down to the studs. And all they had left of their budget was $30,000. Well, you've got two or three bathrooms, you've got a full kitchen, you have flooring, you have sheetrock, you have all the mechanicals in the house, you have windows, doors. So that's not a $30,000 budget. That's more like 130 on a good day.
Yeah.
And there was nothing that I could do. So what it really made me, I guess my point is what it really made me understand is how important it is to police, for a better word, police that draw schedule, make sure that you're releasing those funds, but the work is actually completed before you release all those funds. And then they're having the contractors taking off with it. It's really an interesting dynamic, and it can definitely go off the rails fast.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And that's like the bummer part. And so it's kind of like risk management because, people want their own and they're like demanding it. But it's also like we also have a fiduciary responsibility to like make sure stuff gets done, because we don't want to take over a house that's like half done or not even started either. So, and there are a lot of unfortunately bad actors in this space that make it that add up these rules and regulations so that we're all essentially protected. So I know that that can be a frustrating experience, like on both sides of the coin. Like you need it, but we won't release it, or like it hasn't been done, so it shouldn't go.
Well, and to your point, some of those virtual inspections or, digitally enhanced tech processes, it does take the subjection out of it. Like this is done. You check that box and then you can move on. So hopefully that's relieving a little bit of that, but I'm sure you're still going to have your subjection here and there and back and forth
Yep.
a bit. Anytime when it comes to money exchange, right?
Right.
Correct. Yep.
Aubrey, is there anything that else that you want to speak about that comes to mind that you want to make sure you covered since we're, have this great opportunity to visit together?
I mean, I really appreciate the time, and it's always like refreshing to speak with other women in the space and just kind of like remind each other like what's important and like how much we've all individually accomplished in an industry that's very competitive and very male dominated. So like I appreciate the time, and um I mean, I'd love obviously the opportunity to work with anybody who is listening or like hears us down the line and needs hard money financing, particularly if they're a woman. Of course, I work with a ton of men, but the
That's right.
with other female operators, and I love chopping it up with them and helping them grow their own individual businesses. So I'd love to work with anybody where that makes sense.
And where's the best way to reach you?
Um, Probably either Instagram or LinkedIn is like my social presences. And it's Aubrey Aubrey, and my last name is Kozer, Kozer. HouseMaxFunding.com is our website. And then my personal number is 737-355-9503. So if call text is easy, that works too.
Perfect. Well, we are not only so lucky and fortunate to have you here on the SFR She Suite today, we're lucky to have you in the industry.
Yes.
And I know HouseMax Funding feels the same way. So it's been a privilege to have you on the show and hear your story and learn from you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it and felt very loved and supported here. So, very grateful. Thank you.
Yeah. And we appreciate you bringing your story, your leadership, and your operator DNA to the SFR She Suite. Women like you are shaping the future of this industry, not only the current, but the future. And it's not through just, what you do, but how you lead. Um, and we also want to invite everyone, if this conversation has inspired you, share it with another woman in SFR BTR who needs to hear it, and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and follow us on LinkedIn for more conversation with the women leading the way. I'm your host, Mendy Seegar, along with Tonya Odell. We'll see you next time on the SFR She Suite.